Shakespeare's play Macbeth is often regarded as one of the best expeditions into the timeless themes and cultures of the human psyche, but the true depth of the play is often overlooked in favour of basic media tropes popularised by modern culture. That being said, the 2005 adaptation of Macbeth, which had been being directed by Mark Brosel, had no easy task ahead in representing the finer details and recurring ideas of human nature in a way that a primarily millennial audience would be able to relate to. To achieve this, the script condensed themes such as ambition, delusions, and revenge into a kitchen setting in modern-day London. But just as witches are to a Scottish kingdom, bin men are to a 3-star Michelin restaurant. Much like its previous iterations, 2005's Macbeth prominently featured the Extra-Mundane as a hand at play within the events of the story. This video will be a brief discussion about the role that witchcraft and the Extra-Mundane play in Macbeth. It's important to look back at the original text itself. Arguably the best example of witchcraft in the entire play takes place in Scene 1 of Act 4. In this scene, the witches are able to convince Macbeth that he's gotten away with the slaughtering of King Duncan, and ultimately leads him down the path of killing Banquo. It's a prime example of the Extra-Mundane, much like the various religious institutions of the time, having the power to manipulate the minds of incredibly powerful individuals. It's a very clear play on our naivety as a species. We are so willing to accept a skewed version of the world to fulfill our deluded fantasies. Macbeth perfectly encapsulates this when communicating with the first apparition in page 3 of Scene 1 in Act 4. The apparition yells, "Macbeth, Macbeth, Macbeth, beware Macduff, beware the Thane of Fife, dismiss me, enough." There's a palpable sense of fear-mongering in this message, and it's apparent that it's affected Macbeth in quite a substantial way in his next quote. "Whatter thou art, for thy good caution, thanks. Thou hast harped my fear aright, but one word more." This single quote is a major shifting point in the story, with Macbeth's paranoia now unfettered by any kind of logical reasoning. And with that, the witches have now almost unlimited control over Macbeth and his actions. And it could be argued quite strongly that this is what continues his descent into insanity. Fast forwarding 400 years, and storytelling had changed quite drastically. Films and plays favoured more sophisticated and nuanced means of conveying ideas and messages. So when it came to representing the supernatural to a new generation, a copied and pasted method of the witch's role in the story wasn't going to cut it for the 2005 iteration. This time, as opposed to the witches and hags of the base subject matter, they've been replaced with binmen, who, much like the witches, are depicted as the scourge of society, and it's clear that anybody in their right mind would not talk or trust them. This film's equivalent to the scene discussed earlier is a very convenient microcosm of the changes that were applied for the sake of relatability.
Don't ask.
I have to know. Watch out for the big waiter. Macduff? Yeah, that's the one.
Everything about the witches, or in this case the bin men, has been stylized in a much more modern, theatrical way. But it still perfectly represents the ideas and message of the scene. Of course, the language is far more relaxed than the original Shakespearean rendition, and the magic of editing has allowed an almost comical score to give an added theatrical flair to the scene.
The sound and the fury.
It all ends with us. Incinerated. Obliterated.
No more.
Yesterday's breakfast, yesterday's meat, yesterday's men.
Occasionally the bin men will chant to Macbeth in an almost patronising way, as if they're making light out of the truly desolate situation that he's in.
Stop! What about Billy?
We told you. We told him.
Less happy than you, and yet more happy.
This once again highlights Macbeth's inability to look past what's directly in front of him, which is what gives the witches so much power over him.
To you.
Pigs will drop on your head before you're armed. Pigs will fly, pigs will fly, pigs will fly.
In an identical fashion to the original text, Macbeth's fate is sealed from here as he now views himself as impervious to any kind of retribution. Macbeth has proven to be one of the best vessels in which to display the themes of the supernatural in a near-timeless fashion. This has led to its several centuries-long prominence over Shakespeare's other works in representing themes and cultures that we are still familiar with today. And its 2005 iteration, directed by Mark Brosel, proves that it can be used in almost any context.